G'day guys, Tours20 here, welcome back to Oceania. Do you have one of those places in your city that you haven't built on yet and has been left for far too long? Maybe the area is too big and daunting that you just don't really know where to start. Or perhaps you've left it undeveloped for so long that you're used to seeing it the way it is. Well, this area down here is all those things to me, and today we're finally going to be building something down here. I've got a couple of ideas, a few suggestions from you guys, and I'm looking forward to finally placing something in this giant space that has been left underdeveloped for just way too long. Before I get there, we do have a few things I want to fix up within the city. As you can see, we've got a bit of a death wave situation going on, and I think it's because of our traffic situation. The road layout in Dundee is pretty questionable in some areas. I've definitely tried to base it on cities that don't have the greatest road layouts, particularly Sydney. It's all over the place. So you can see a lot of these roads are definitely not lining up. We could probably make some improvements using traffic precedent mod, which is exactly what I want to do. I want to start with this area of the city. It is probably one of the busiest areas, and it's only going to get so much worse. I mean, imagine when we start building up in this area, there's going to be a bunch of suburbs, a couple of towns. There's going to be a town over there. So this area is going to need some serious improvements if it's ever going to survive the traffic that's going to flow from over this side. And you can actually see, I mean, the backing up of traffic is already really bad. And this is where the bulk of the death wave is happening at the moment. And the thing is, it's actually probably a really easy fix. And the idea is to use some timed traffic lights to allow the traffic coming from the bridge a lot more time to make it through this intersection. And then you can even see here, I mean, I reckon we could probably turn this into no turning lane, only maybe for the trams, of course. And then we could probably even give a timed, we'll pair these two up so that when this is a green light, they can actually just flow all the way through this intersection as well. I'm gonna turn off the traffic lights there. I'm just gonna make it instead a stop sign on these ones. And then that way we should have a pretty nice bit of flow going on. Of course, the trams can make their turns. That should be totally fine. But for anything else, I'm gonna turn it off. And I'm even gonna restrict the amount of pedestrians crossing as well, and let's even give them access, maybe even one of those, yeah, this is what I was thinking of. So why don't we give these guys something like this, so that they can just walk over on one of these pedestrian bridges, rather than crossing the road and backing this up even more. So I've just given pedestrians access through this overpass, and then at this intersection, pretty much no one can do any sort of turning because we don't really need it. Of course you can turn left and trams have access, but there's no access between these two roads like that. And then it's just a matter of syncing up these traffic lights. The first thing I'm gonna do, now just keep in mind that I'm definitely no expert at this, but I have been practicing and I think I've got a couple of tricks that I can implement. Let's go for this, and then I think if I press down Alt, I can pair them. Yeah, that's the one. So let's set up a timed traffic light. So something that I can do for the first step is I'm actually going to always keep this lane as green, because as you can see, there's actually there's going to be no crashes, I should probably say, because this is pretty much its own dedicated lane to turn left, which is the way I set it up in the first place. Just didn't really have any ideas of how to do the timed traffic lights when I did. So they're going to be green, and then I should probably put on pause, right? And then I'm going to go, these guys can all be green as well. And then I think the trick is to give these guys a pretty big window to travel through. So I'm just going to go 25 for now. We'll do 25 on both, and we'll add that as a step. I'm going to press start, but I'm definitely missing a couple of steps. This always happens. I start timing these up, and then I just need to see the flow and realize which lanes I haven't given any access to, because there's no doubt going to be a few of them that are not going to be synced up. So straight off the bat, I can see that I've got this lane as bus and taxi only, but at this stage, there's no real reason to have that because there's no buses and there's no taxis coming from that direction, so I'm going to change it. Alright, so this seems to be a bit of a source of some problems here, so I reckon we could probably just change some of the dedicated lanes here. So maybe even, okay, so that's not too bad. These guys are having a bit of a hard time. Maybe we just need to change it so that they need to decide way early on. Oh, hold on. Let's just see how this flows, because at the moment that's not so bad. Obviously need to do some work in this intersection as well, but that's something we can do after this one. So I think this is going to solve some problems. So I'm going to make it so that this guy can go like that and can turn right, because I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of people turning right. And hopefully that should fix a bit of this going on. So I've been a bit busy and I have changed a couple of things. First of all, I have changed this back from just a stop sign and have put the traffic lights in, because I have instead paired up our timed lights with these two guys, and this one's on its own timed system, and that's actually working pretty alright. I know that we do have a little bit of traffic backed up, but it is a city and I don't really mind a huge amount of traffic. Well, I don't mind some traffic. I don't want to see a huge amount. And I have set up this timed light down here, so we actually have a much larger time. As you can see, these guys are traveling through quite quickly, and I've paired up a lot of these lanes so that they are choosing better lanes. And something else that I have done is I have banned traffic from turning left at this intersection, because I noticed that a lot of people were choosing to turn left here and were getting really, really stuck. Whereas this lane down here is always permanently on. So it means that we'll try to encourage as many vehicles going down there as possible. It is looking alright. It's definitely getting a lot better, but something that I've just realized, I mean, I'm learning constantly, even though I've been playing this game for such a long time, but I am subscribed to a mod that is No Big Trucks mod, and I thought it was just going to work its magic by itself, but it doesn't if you are using custom vehicles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, because I'm getting, like, look at this guy. This truck, I want him to be on the highways, between the farms, between the towns, between the factories, not driving in downtown Dundee. That is ridiculous. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my advanced vehicle options mod, and I'm going to go through and just change some of these settings. So I'm going to flag this as a large vehicle, which means that these larger trucks will no longer make deliveries to these shops, and that's fine. I can keep him as normal size. These guys are all fine. But trucks like this, that's a large vehicle. So we're going to change all of those ones, and hopefully I should see far less of those larger trucks traveling down the downtown. Unfortunately, vehicles like this are traveling to places, so he's traveling all the way to that warehouse. So that is a problem. He's not finding a better, or at least a faster option to get through the city, which is a real shame, because we do have a highway that pretty much stretches directly there. So I don't really know why he's taking this route instead. And then I've also got the heavy traffic ban in all of the cities. So I don't know, do you guys have any suggestions? Because I'm a little bit stuck and it's causing some problems and it's killing a little bit of the realism. So if you got some ideas, that would be fabulous. While I'm on this main road, I'm going to go through to a couple more intersections. Places like this on this busy road, I'm going to change from being a set of traffic lights. I'm going to turn them to just an intersection, so that I'm going to make that purely a stop sign. And then I'm going to ban any vehicles from making any crossings over this side, because they don't really need to do it. Particularly if we've got larger intersections at other areas. And then I'm going to go through and ban pedestrian crossing, because, I mean, just walk a little bit further up. It's good for you and it's not too far up. So I'm going to go through to all the others and just ban any more vehicles from traveling along. This one I'm okay with, that's fine there, but this one I reckon we can change from being any kind of crossings. Sorry guys, and then we're going to change these lanes to going only across here. And I was just about to complain that removing that intersection has also created my markings to kind of disappear a little bit, or look a little bit strange with this gap, particularly for the bus and taxi lane. But then, like, why would I complain when I've got intersection marking tool, and I can actually go through and add in a filler that I reckon I could probably get it to the same color. This is pretty insane. I'm going to show you exactly what I did. I think that's about as close as I can get it. I can hear some people cheering me on. a little bit strange, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But what I'm doing here is I'm actually just using the intersection marking tool, and I'm just dragging these nodes around. I'm connecting them up, and then let's see, I think I've selected it to the wrong one. That's totally fine. And this is one of those things where I'm spending probably more time than I really need to be doing. But I mean, that is pretty amazing that you can do something like that so easily. It has actually just taken 2 seconds to do, and it has added in quite a lot. I'll show you what it looks like without it. So I'm just going to drag those 2 lines, and then because I have just saved it as tram line, so I'm going to select it and copy it over, tram line, match up those nodes. And then I've just created a filler, and I'm going to switch it from stripes to solid. And then because I've copied over that color, I'm just going to paste it in, and voila. I mean, that is pretty amazing. I'm going to do that with all those intersections because they do look pretty strange without the color in between. I'll show you what it looks like without it. So this one down here doesn't, and it just doesn't really work. I mean, it works for an intersection where, yeah, I mean, maybe you've got some traffic lights, then you probably don't really need that connection. But I think for just a regular intersection where we've just got a stop sign, we can continue that line work. It's definitely not as encouraging doing this work without all that cheering, but I'm gonna power through and continue with it. Amazing. So that one is finished. I reckon we've probably tackled all the ones that were causing the main problems. I just think that it's going to look so much better and flow a lot nicer as well. By the way, I actually have turned off. Within these settings, I have disabled despawning. So the amount of traffic that I'm seeing at the moment is actually pretty good. Of course, nobody lives out this way at the moment, but we were seeing a lot of traffic getting backed up before that. So, I mean, I can only imagine how bad it's going to get. Got one more intersection to work on, and it's down towards our big chunky block of lands that we need to work on in just a sec. But I do want to work on this one because you can see there's a lot going on. We've got our hospital, we're going to have whatever is going to sit over here, and there is a highway connection. This is the underground highway that stretches beyond past the downtown, and this goes out towards Patterson. So, you know, every now and again, do see quite a lot of traffic coming through, particularly when there's an event. I'm going to pair these, like maybe the lane turning right. I'll pair them up with this intersection here so that we can get a nice flow. These guys can just like flow straight into that lane, and maybe even something to do with that too. So let's start pairing these up. This has become the thing of nightmares. I think that the only way I'm going to get this to work is to ban traffic from turning left into here and make it so that any vehicles who are traveling from the highway can go through this way, but otherwise I think it's just too tight for other vehicles to get through this area. Instead, I think that, I mean, most of the people turning right, okay, so a few people are traveling down this way, but we're getting a lot of backup with people trying to turn left. So I believe that if I ban any left-hand turns into this lane, then that's going to encourage more people to travel down this way to get into the city. So let's ban any left-hand turns there, and this is the tricky part, because I guess vehicles coming down here should have the option to get into the highway, but I reckon I'm just going to, I don't know, probably not. I'm not going to ban it. I'll have to make it so that we have access to that lane as people are turning as well. And then I believe, let's turn off a couple more lanes just to make it a little bit easier. I think some of these guys are trying to turn right down here. Let's stop that from happening. I don't think that really needs to happen. They can take another option. I think that's as bad as good as it's going to get. There is a little bit of craziness going on. I mean, that's just sort of city skylines for you. And I mean, yeah, just every now and again, some cars just kind of do whatever they want. But that's kind of just what reality is like as well, I guess. Alright, it's time to finally tackle this big boy. We need to figure out what we're going to be doing down here. Let's just commit and get rid of all the trees, because I placed down all these trees with the intention of building a big garden up this way, probably something as like a big city park, but I don't really need that anymore. Now that we've got the Dundee Gardens right on the water's edge, you can really get a good idea of how much land we have to work with. We're going to get rid of all those trees, see it compares to some other areas like the downtown and you know, even some of the suburbs around here. It's bigger than the Olympic Park, which is a bit ridiculous. So we do need to split it up and think about a better way of maybe zoning this thing out, maybe adding in some suburbs. Let's just continue getting rid of some stuff and get rid of all these paths. So I think what would be really cool up here is to have a couple of different things going on. So what I would like to do is take some inspiration from a couple of parks that are down in Auckland. We've got the Auckland Domain, which is a pretty large park. It's not exactly the same shape as the one we've got down here, but it's still pretty similar. We've already got our Dundee Hospital, which is pretty similar to the Hospital of Auckland, or the Auckland City Hospital, which is right next to the park. And I also would like to take inspiration from Albert Park as well, which also has this university right. I mean, I guess it's not technically within the park, but it's still right next to it. We've got some of these older dormitories because we do already have a campus out in Paterson, so we do already have a university, but we don't have anything within Dundee. And I would like to do something a little bit more historical, a bit more you know, got a little bit more history to it, because the one down at Paterson's a little bit more modern. So using some of these buildings, I mean, that's pretty nice. So I reckon we do something like that. And because we already have a bit of infrastructure down here, we've got Hipsterville and we've got Valeria, which is a super nice suburb. So I reckon they're going to very much appreciate a university really close by. But we've also got this subway, and it's not really I mean, I guess people don't really need to use it at the moment because it's not really anything around here. So I think this would be a good spot for a campus. So what about if we dedicate this area for the campus, and then we can also add in a couple of extra things around this way too. Totally forgot, but we've also got the tram line that goes through. So I don't know, we could also have some sort of, I don't know, I guess it's still pretty close. The tram line's right here as well. All right, ignore that. Now with this university, I don't really want to do a huge amount of detail on it. I've already got a pretty detailed university out at Paterson. This one's going to be a little bit more fast and loose. I just want to like place it down and make it look really nice and see what we can achieve with limited detail. We'll do a little bit, but not too much. But the first question is, whereabouts are we going to drag out some roads? Because I think that's going to be a pretty important step. Let me think. Let's actually do this road. See this road here? I feel like it's a fairly substantial road, but it kind of only stretches for a very limited amount of time. So I think heading towards a university would probably make a bit of sense. And I think what makes this area look so weird at the moment is just how boxed off it is. So maybe having a road come from here is going to, I don't know, just maybe make it a little less boxy. Particularly if we take an angle like that. I mean, I know people, I feel like people are pretty divided. People either love grids or they hate them, but I like to really just break things up and make things pretty less gridded than they are. Yeah. I feel like it's gonna do that weird thing with the road. No, it's fine. It looks fine. So why don't we do something like that? And we can drag our, you know what, let's do another road. Let's do another one. And not to mention, we're just absolutely not flat ground, as per usual. I'm gonna try and keep the campus, fairly small. We don't want to do it too large. We don't have, it feels like we've got a lot of space, but I reckon we're gonna run out of space pretty quickly. And I do want to dedicate a big chunk of land for a bit of a parkland, but just gotta make sure it's not as rigid as the last one, and make sure it fits in with the rest of the city, because it absolutely did not before. So that's going to be where my university is going to sit. And then I reckon I could probably use a bunch of the actual campus DLC buildings. Maybe not. That doesn't really fit. Instead, maybe we could use one of the other ones. Thankfully, I do have a much better looking one, definitely more in proportion to the rest of the city. So I'm going to use this. It's also just a beautiful building, and it's the sort of architecture I want to go for. The question is whereabouts I'm going to place it, which is always the question for me. I might even, I kind of want to place it there, but I also kind of want it close to the subway station. Might even just, you know what? I feel like it deserves its own little stretch of road, and I might even make this road even just like pedestrian only, and then that way I can, yeah, that's what I want. So I kind of wanted it to face the city a bit more, because over there kind of felt like it was a bit excluded. This needs to be heart and center. I'm obviously going to try and make it look nice, but I'm going to try and make it look nice from more of a distance, less impressive up close. We don't get too close to it, and let's just see how we go. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit stuck with options at this stage, just because I am using these ones from the Steam Workshop, and because of the way they're modeled, they're obviously more realistic, and they, you know, just modeled a lot differently to the ones from the Campus DLC, which some of them work just fine. You know, like this Maths Club is the same size as the rest of these buildings. There's a bit of a toga party happening at the moment. So look, this works well. And even this building from the Steam Workshop, which is also part of the university, it even functions. I don't really know what it does, but maybe it's a dorm or something like that. But it's working as part of the university. But this building and the rest of them are just too large. They don't really fit with the rest of the uni. So I'm going to remove that one, and I'm going to have to jump into the Steam Workshop and find some extras. But there is one building that I did really want to use. There's actually a couple, well, just these two. I don't think this one's gonna work, but these ones work really well. But it's one of those situations where it is like a great looking building, and it would be perfect over in this area, but as soon as I place it down next to the rest of the campus, it makes everything else look really, really small and disproportionate. So as much as I want to use this, I don't think I can use it over in that area. But I think that a building like this, let's just have a good look at it. I mean, it's got some beautiful 70s architecture that I think fits in pretty well with Chester Hill, which is, it's pretty bleak down here. So I reckon we stick him down in this area, because I think that kind of works. Did it just get darker? What's going on with my light setting? There we go. Let's just get a little bit brighter. So I'm gonna probably place this around there. I'm gonna turn down the brightness, turn up the brightness of the game, but turn down the brightness of that building. I think that's gonna work. So we've kind of got like two separate areas, but I'm gonna count them in the same category as campus. Well, I guess they technically are. And I'm gonna need some more buildings for this guy down here, but we are slowly starting to figure out where things are going. In Sydney, we've got this observatory that sits on this little hill on this park, pretty much within the heart of the city. I mean, it's just off the city, but it's definitely not the greatest area to be stargazing. Of course, back in the day, I'm sure it probably would have had much better stargazing opportunities, but these days it's just a museum. I mean, you can see some stars, but it's definitely not as good as some of the ones out further out of the city. So I think it'd be kind of cool if we did something similar. On the Steam Workshop, I couldn't find a lot, so I think I'm just gonna stick with the one that's comes with the game. The thing is, it's just it's kind of massive. I mean, we were talking about scale. Well, that is absolutely not something we can use because it is just way too massive. But the actual model itself is pretty cool. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna select it. I'm gonna make it into a procedural object so we can scale him down just a smidge. If I go to customize, select all those nodes, go down to scale, and I'm gonna make it really, 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 really small. The one in Sydney is super small. It's probably a bit bigger than that. Let's go a little bit bigger. I mean, it's great that people are walking past it because it gives us a good idea of how big it is. You know, I think that's still bigger than the one within Sydney, but I reckon that's probably a good size. And let's just change the color a bit. I mean, it doesn't need to be that bright. I'm going to say that the university is maybe like 90% complete. There's still a few little things that I want to do, but I don't want to do a huge amount of detail down here. It's not that I don't want to detail it. I'm actually holding back. But I mean, when you are building an entire city, you do have to pick and choose the types of areas or the things that you build in detail, because otherwise you do get stuck doing a series for multiple years. That's I mean, we're already in year 2 for this one. But there is something that I do want to do. I think that this, so you see how we got, I mean, I started doing it down here, but I didn't really complete it properly. But these little gravel paths, you know, I chose gravel. I just sort of think it's a bit of a different style and adds something a little bit more different to what else, everything else that's going on within Dundee, because the rest of the city, besides any sort of grassy areas, is otherwise pretty concretey. But gravel, not so much so. And I think that this is kind of like a nice little contrast between the rest of the city. I'm just aligning this up a little bit better so that you can see how it goes directly to the door. And I think that looks just a little bit better. I mean, it's not perfect, but we're not really going for absolute perfection. And I might do the same for that. And then I think it's just a matter of just thinking about the tree placement, maybe just a little bit better, because I kind of just chucked a whole bunch of trees down here. And I mean, that's not like the worst technique, but it does mean that for some areas it doesn't look right. But for the most part, I think it's not so bad. Because I did want a whole bunch of bigger trees, and I think I just got to fill out a couple of other areas with some smaller ones, you know, particularly around the edge of these buildings. But I think I'll do that a little bit later. What I would like to do though is I want to just show you this guy that I just sort of placed down, because I completely forgot about it. It's been sitting in my asset collection for ages, and then I was just scrolling through my unique buildings, and then it was there, and it's perfect. We've actually got another building pretty similar to that. It's down here, but I believe this one's from San Francisco. The other one is, I think it's a European building. Oh, there you go. It's from the UK. So, I mean, it's pretty perfect. I think it fits in really well, and it's on top of, and I like that it sits on top of this hill. It kind of makes a bit of sense, but what doesn't make a lot of sense is the way that it's placed down. I kind of just placed it, and we need to add in a little bit of detail. But I want to first move probably this observatory, because I kind of think that this whole building's going to have like a bit of a garden dedicated to it. So why don't we maybe do something over here for the observatory. I actually totally forgot to mention these buildings that I got for the university. These are European buildings. The asset creator, I mean, I think they're fairly old buildings from the workshop, but they're really nice and they fit in really well for this university because, you know, a lot of the architecture within Australia and New Zealand, I mean, we take a lot of influences from Europe. So I think this sort of works. Some of them aren't technically university buildings, so I have placed in a couple of cubes that are basically making them into universities. So this is actually working as a campus and providing some really good land value for the area. We'll look at that in a short little bit after we work on a couple of other little things. I love seeing this toga party down here. But what I would like to do, I've got these 2 or 3 buildings down here, and this one's a little bit random because it's, I mean, kind of not even facing the street. That's kind of how it came. But I'm going to place down the exact same building. So we've got 3 of the same building. Do they slightly have different colors? Let's give them slight variations. Let's make that one slightly bluer. And I'm totally fine with the fact that they're all the same building because I sort of think that they're, I don't know, got some sort of use for the university, of course, and they've just the same architecture. I mean, that does happen. But I have turned this one into a procedural object and I've just copied him over twice. And it kind of looks cool. I mean, I like the 4 domes on the top, or 4 skylights, or whatever they are. So that's that. One thing I want to check out is let's just have a little look at the usage of this station down here, because we do have a metro and it connects up pretty well. It goes all the way through to Central Station and goes all the way down to, quite a lot of tourist areas of the city. And as you can see, I wonder if I was to press exit, no, it loses that. There we go. So that view. So that's quite cool because you can actually see this is all underground, and there's the metro arriving at the station. And there are just a few people coming off. So obviously not a lot at the moment. We've only just built it. So I reckon as we continue building this park, we should see a little bit more usage than that. And the university, of course, at the moment is pretty bare bones. We need to add in a little bit more, give it a bit more land value as well. But yeah, you can see these people, they walk in and out, and the entrance for those areas is there. And we've got another one over there too. I actually think I should add a bit more value to the uni because it is lacking a little bit of facilities. So let's just see what we can splice into some of these buildings. So I'm going to put in a futsal building and we'll just place him in there, and he's hidden pretty well. The problem is these buildings are just so massive, it's really hard to place them down and not feel like they don't belong within this area. But maybe even some of these dorms, because they are super cool. I've placed a couple of extra buildings down, but I'm going to leave it for dorms because we do actually have enough space, and the attractiveness is also there as well. We just got to give it a bit of time. I think I'm being a bit impatient, so we'll just wait. People can definitely get here, and we'll have to add a couple of tram stops as well. But at the moment, that block is looking, like I said, about 95% complete. But these ones are more like 10% complete. Definitely made some progress, but there are still some things that I do want to fix up. Let's talk about what we've got up to. Let's go block by block. Starting out the university. So I am calling this at the moment, unless you've got a better name, University of Oceania. It is doing pretty well, and I've just, because we've got pretty much infinite money, I'm just gonna crank that all the way up because money is not a thing in this series. And hopefully that reputation should start increasing. I have added in some just smaller trees here and there, mostly around the sides of the buildings. And I think it's starting to come together a little bit nicer amongst some of these bigger trees. Because it is an old university, I've placed down some massive trees, but I think placing down some smaller ones has definitely made some improvements. I just need to probably position them in better places, but still working on it. And then let's walk up to or fly over to Osborne House, which we'll have to give, we'll have to fix this. I think it's just because it's got no road access. But we'll also have to figure out what this is all about. You know, it's probably some sort of government house, or maybe it's a museum now, but let me know what we should do with this thing. We have, just a bit of walking path around here, and I've tried to make it look quite different to the other areas around this parkland. You know, we've got some parking and we've got some paved walking trails and paths, and just trying to make things look a little bit more manicured. And we're going to come back here and add some extra things. And then we've got Observatory Hill. So I have made it so that I've made it so our university campus has stretched between this area. This is the main campus, and then we've got our medicine, our University of Medicine, or Campus of Medicine, whatever, it's School of Medicine. And then we've got the observatory, which is also part of the university, which is why I've used the same buildings, as you can see. So we've got the same architecture. So that's all part of the same campus. I've got nothing, I mean, as you can see, these are procedural objects, so they've actually got no functionality at the moment. What I need to do is grab some of these block services for maybe some sort of university functionality. So that's something that I need to grab. I'll do that for the next episode. But if you've got some ideas, let me know. But it would be great to see people using this area, because at the moment it's just for show. But it's great. It's like the highest point in the city, and it is, you know, just a little bit more older, you know, a bit more historical. That's why I've made our telescope this color, tried to make it a bit more of a bronze color, and it's looking pretty nice. And then down here, you're probably wondering why there is such a big open space. Well, I realized that we didn't really have very many open spaces for events within the city. So that's what this area is. And that's why our land is looking a little bit walked on. You know, I reckon it's still like a playing field and, you know, a place to picnic and all that sort of stuff. But for concerts, for city events, I reckon it would happen down here. And then we've got this area, which is more of an industrial area. Sort of. It's a bit of a mixed zoning, I guess. I don't reckon there'll be very much foot traffic around here, so that's why we've got some more vacant lots, which are probably been, you know, probably going to be zoned into houses, to be honest, or maybe even some future industry, who knows. But it's definitely an area that is under a bit of transition, and I just don't really know what to do here. I think I might add some more, maybe some more of this, you know, just some pavement and some piles of rubble and stuff like that, because I think that this whole area is probably close to being maybe even bought up by the university or turned into something else, who knows. And so that's what we built, but there's still a few little things that I want to fix up. Let's start with our building, whatever this is. We need to give it a road connection because it's complaining at the moment, and I can totally understand why. Hopefully this is where the actual building is connected to. Has that fixed that problem? Does it have road access now? Yeah, I believe it does. Well, that was an easy fix. You know, we've actually got that road now stretching this way, so why don't we just connect it? Hopefully it doesn't cause too many problems. Now, this is still a little bit messed up. You know, there's not really a huge amount going on in terms of trees and decoration, so I'm gonna try and fix it up a little bit, but I'm not gonna do as much gardening or landscaping as real life Osborne house. I'm gonna keep it a little bit more bare bones. Let's actually just fix a couple of things first. So we've got a bit of land poking through. I reckon I'm gonna use a bit of that just to make it poke through even more. No, I'm not gonna do that. We're gonna drop it down. So basically I'm using this terraforming network. This network's great because sometimes you do get a lot of this sort of stuff. I'm gonna connect it all like that, and then we'll just drop it into the ground. And I can do it like here, and this one's a bit messed up too, so I can just get rid of that. Perfect. I think this is a little bit different, but that's fine. I don't mind if it is a little bit different. I actually like this because I think this is actually a key, which makes it easier to lower some of this land a little bit more. So using move it, I'm just gonna select some of these nodes and drop them down, and maybe even bring it right close. Right close? maybe something like that. So we now have a retaining wall that goes around the entire building, and I've also put in this fence too. And what I've realized is that the connection to the road has to be through here. So what I've done is I've got this road, and I was thinking, oh man, well that really stuffs things up because we know we've got this road just goes right through the middle of it. But what we can do is we could actually make some underground parking here, because I actually think this would be perfect for underground parking. You know, whether it's for, probably not for the university students, it's probably more for people who are visiting the house. So what I'm going to do is, because these are props, you know, I've made this into a wall like that, I'm going to remove some of them. I might even do it just right up to right up to the wall. Or sorry, right up to the street. And I might copy a few more. Actually, I take that back. Why don't we do instead? Let's remove some of these walls. And what I like is, I like how we've got this different type of retaining wall down below. So hopefully this doesn't break our connection to, someone just went in there, to the road. So if I was to connect it like that, and then select the nodes, and hopefully I can make a pretty nice looking retaining wall. Maybe if I just bring it up to the same level. Do we still have a road connection? Fantastic. That's what I'm mostly concerned about. And we still got road connection. Fantastic. So I have seen some people drive in there, but obviously not a huge amount. I wonder if I can make some parking in here without disturbing too much of the building's functionality. If I go to parking, rather than, actually, you know what? Parking like that. You know what, I'm gonna do double. And then that way we should see people driving in as parking, and we should also see the building functioning, which it is, and that's awesome. So we've got all these nice gardens down here, but I am wondering whether we're going to see people even walking in these gardens. So I think what we should do is drag some invisible paths. Like, of course, people are going to be visiting our house, but we don't really, I keep calling it our house because I'm not going to give it a name yet. Let me know what you think of some names. But I reckon we should do some sort of invisible paths so that they go through this building, and people can actually access these areas. And I've got a bit of an idea of how I can do that. So I'm just going to start with just a regular path. I'm going to drag it through, and I reckon we go through the main doors like this. So I want to see like the whole walking path of these people, you know? So this is why I'm going through all these areas. And then we'll do a path going through this area. I know it's looking a bit weird at the moment, but I've got an idea. And then this is just so I can see exactly where people are going to be walking around. So they're not going to be clipping into any of these gardens, and like so, and we'll grab that. No, that's all right like that. And the reason why I'm doing it going through here is because I don't think I can actually get people walking down the stairs. I mean, I probably could, but I think it's gonna be a little bit tricky. So there we go. We've got the path going all the way through. Now I'm going to select these nodes and make sure that they are all the way on the ground, so nobody is hovering above the ground. Yeah, somewhere like that. And let's grab a couple of these. So these people generators. And I'm just going to go maybe two. We don't do huge amounts. I mean, I don't expect to see tons of people walking through here, but it would be good to see a few of them. You know what? Maybe just the one, and then we can use instead some of these. These are pretty good. So I might even put one in the building there, and we'll do another one maybe like here. So I'm pretty much just trying to encourage people to actually walk around. And then now we can actually make our path invisible. And then I guess we just wait and see if people actually go for a walk around these gardens. With so much down here now, I am curious to see how our public transport is holding out. We have, I think, okay parking, and we do have buses, multiple bus stops all around the parkland. We don't have any going inside, but I don't think we really need it. I mean, we've got one here, we've got another couple that are down here as well. And we've even got a couple of tram stops along the way this way, but we can add in maybe one or two tram stops along this route. In fact, I don't think there's any trams that even travel along here. Let's have a look. Yeah, so there's absolutely nothing going on. So why don't we give a couple of stops along the way. So just for the moment, I'm going to give just a little turning circle for these guys, for this tram. But we will build something a little bit more substantial a little bit later on. So we've got this commercial district up here. So I reckon we give a stop. We give another stop somewhere along here. And then the next one, of course, we should probably put up at our observatory. Another one close to our university campus. So let's do a stop there. And then we'll cross the bridge. And I think we pretty much... I guess we've got a couple of options. We could go towards Central and have a stop down there. Could make a stop down at the beach. There is a tram line going this way. So yeah, why don't we do that? Let's follow this route down. So why don't we give a stop there. We'll have another one up here. Geez, this is going to be a very busy line. So we're going to have stops at all these pre-existing stations. I tell you what, that is an excellent tram line. That is an area that we hadn't really done much around. So we've got a line going all the way through here, connects up the beach to some of these suburbs and goes through what is a pretty busy area, industrial, a lot of suburban area, and then there's university and parkland. So that is just a great stretch of track. It's a fairly long line, so I've decided to place down, allow for 5 trams to be using it. We've got quite a few different types. We've actually got a few of these longer ones, but also some of the smaller versions too. Yeah, so this guy down here, we've got a few of them. So, it's going to get quite a lot of usage, and I'm just going to keep an eye on it because I think being some of the only, or at least, it's this and the bus network, pretty much serving this whole area. So I am going to keep an eye out for it and see just how it's going. And speaking of how it's going, let's have a look at our metro because we have now placed down a lot more stuff down here. It's a pretty short line, to be honest, and it's one of those work in progress type of ones because it stops off at the university, it stops off at Central Station. This is a station that's all the way down here, which is, quite busy, but there's not really, I don't think there's a lot of people using it at the moment. And then it goes all across here, which is going to be where, a lot of our industry is going to sit, and our future airport too. So that's what's going to sit out there. So that's probably why you're not seeing a huge amount of usage at the moment. And while we're looking at our metro lines, I'm going to do a bit of changing because, so I'm actually going to swap them out. We're going to use the same model, but these are going to have custom libraries which are made by Blue Thunder, who is the creator behind Ride, which is the transport company that operates within Dundee, and they are on the Steam Workshop if you want to go and check them out. Here it is in here, and this matches the rest of the libraries, and it's actually a longer train. I should have been using something like this before because, a fair amount of people do use the metro, and just lagging out a little bit, and they just look super nice. So thanks Blue Thunder for creating them as always. Created all of the ones for Oceania. These look fantastic, and it's super great seeing these guys traveling around the city now. For the last part of this episode, I just wanted to add in some of the suggestions from you guys and also finish up this metro line. I say finish up, but we're definitely going to add in some extra stops. But I did ask you guys a couple of weeks ago whether or not we should extend this to the next stop, and a lot of you guys said we should. So I think that makes a bit of sense because we do have a pretty substantial train station over here, and there's also going to be that light rail tram network too. So yeah, I think that this does make sense, and it also gives us an opportunity to make a loop as well. You will see me do that. It's questionable what's going on underground. You can't really see it, so I'm sure there's like some crazy elevations that I might need to fix up, but they are all connected, which is super nice. And this train station down here in Chester Hill is starting to look a little bit more complete. We definitely need to come back down here and work on some stuff. But thank you all so much for the suggestions. I read all your comments, so it's in it, and I don't always show you the things that I don't always add the things that you suggest, on camera. So that's probably why you might not have seen some of those ideas and things being implemented. And I had also asked like ages ago what we should call this roller coaster down here, and my favorite suggestion was the Gold Coaster. So just adding in a custom sign using procedural objects, and there are a couple of other areas that I do end up naming up. You will see that I will change the name of the Circular Quay inspired area. I end up changing the name for that whole area to Barangaroo Quay, which is another suggestion from you guys. And then another idea that you guys had was, because I was complaining about all the colored shirts that I was getting, lots of red colored shirt tourists. Well, turns out it's because they've got so many events within the city. All the tourists that are turning up are wearing the colored jerseys, so I've just changed them all to white. I think it's just a bit more of a neutral color, I guess, for this area. But as we wrap up this massive episode, far out. Didn't I say I was going to do some shorter episodes? I know you guys love long episodes, and I like putting out longer episodes, but if I'm ever going to get back to my 2 episode a week schedule, then I do need to work on some shorter ones. But anyway, we'll see what happens next week. Big thanks to you guys for watching today's episode, and I want to give a massive shout outs to the wonderful people over on Patreon supporting the channel. TC0129, Billion Penny, Tim Tam Biscuits, Luke Hoax, Owen Johnson, Juan Bravo, Nguyen, Peter, Spick, Who Dat, Tango31, Daniel Foster, and Jordan Einig. Big thanks to those guys, and thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!